Welcome back. On September 1st, 2023, the Sturdy Act became law. Supported by parents and consumer advocates, it focuses on child safety by protecting children from tipping dressers. Following the Act's implementation, Consumer Reports conducted and released the results of its furniture tip over tests for various popular dressers. However, Consumer Reports discovered that the dressers manufactured before the Sturdy Act are still being sold, which may pose safety risks related to tip over incidents. Gabe Knight, a senior policy analyst for Consumer Reports, joins me to discuss this issue. Gabe, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, to start off, let's talk about what were some of the changes implemented by the Sturdy Act that affected the stability of dressers manufactured after September 1st.
To address furniture tipovers that have killed hundreds of children since 2000, the Sturdy Act requires that all dressers under the rule that are made after September 1st, 2023, meet strong mandatory stability standards so that they resist tipping over. These federal standards, importantly, simulate real world use, including accounting for multiple drawers open at once, placement on carpet, and the force a young child can apply while hanging or climbing a dresser.
And in the in this consumer report study, how many dressers were tested, and what was the outcome of those tests regarding safety?
Consumer Reports has tested dozens of dressers over the years. In this most recent round of testing, we bought 19 popular models.
Hmm.
And the good news is that all 10 of the dressers that we were able to confirm were made after September 1st, 2023, passed our tip over tests. However, for two dressers, we weren't able to confirm the manufacturing date despite repeated attempts to contact the manufacturers, and both of those failed our tests.
Hmm.
We also purchased 7 more dressers, but we had to return them untested because we confirmed they were made before September 1st, 2023.
Hmm. And so, what is essentially the standard to reach and that manufacturers should be meeting?
So, any dresser that is made after September 1st, 2023, which is when the Sturdy Act took effect, is going to meet very strong stability standards.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, any dresser made before that is not going to meet mandatory stability standards. Those have not been tested
Hmm.
by rigorous safety testing, and they can be prone to tipping over, which puts children at risk.
And when looking for a dresser, what are some things that parents should be looking for in order to make sure that they reach the standards and stability standards? Are there any key visual elements that they should be looking for?
So you cannot actually tell if a dresser is safe just by looking at it. Even heavy, expensive dressers can be prone to tipping over. They can be
Hmm.
unstable. So confirming a manufacturing date is key. And if you can't find that date readily available, we recommend that you reach out to the manufacturer and retailer to confirm that the dresser was made after September 1st, 2023.
Okay. And so, what advocacy efforts specifically were involved in the development and implementation of the Sturdy Act?
Addressing tip overs has been a priority of Consumer Reports for many years. We've done comparative testing of dressers, and for years, we've worked with parent advocates who have all lost their children to tip overs. And together with those parents, we directly engaged the furniture industry, and we fought for years to pass the Sturdy Act in Congress. The bill was introduced a number of times before it finally passed at the end of 2022, and shortly thereafter was signed into law by the president.
Hmm. And a big thing now, and it's even my favorite, is online shopping. It's so convenient, it's so easy. You get things delivered to your door. You're not worrying about the hassle of traveling and just bringing stuff with you. However, Consumer Reports does encourage in-store shopping for dressers and for more hardware, house appliances. How come?
Well, unfortunately, many companies with furniture listings don't readily provide the manufacturing date information to
Okay.
consumers. It can be very difficult to find. And sometimes furniture companies can be slow to respond to inquiries.
Mhm.
But if you shop in person, you can ask the salesperson directly to confirm that a dresser was made after these rules took effect. We do know that's not realistic for everyone. A lot of people do shop online. So, in the interest of child safety, Consumer Reports has called on retailers and online platforms to commit to a public timeline by which they will only sell dressers that pass the tip over tests required by the Sturdy Act.
I think that's really important because it's funny when you think about online shopping, you think all the information should be right there in the description. So for
Absolutely.
a manufacturing date not to be there, I think is really important. And it's things like this that is like it might actually be worth the trip to go in person instead of online. But with that, what is the significance of the anchor kit that comes with dressers sold under the Sturdy Act? First of all, can you explain what that is for our viewers and then the significance of it?
Sure. The Sturdy Act requires that all dressers covered under the rule be sold with an anchoring kit. And that is something that is going to attach to the dresser and attach to the wall to keep that dresser from tipping over.
Hmm.
This is sometimes called an anti tip device, and it is required to come with your furniture. So make sure that your dresser does come with one and use it. We also recommend that if you have an older dresser, you make sure to anchor that to the wall as well.
Hmm. So even dressers that are manufactured before the date, they still qualify in a sense with the anchor kit, and they're able to bolt it into their walls.
Yes, Consumer Reports always recommends anchoring large pieces of furniture, and that includes TV stands, bookshelves, and other freestanding furniture, because these also pose tip over risks. In June of this year, the Consumer Product Safety Commission issued a recall of a bookcase, which unfortunately tipped over and tragically killed a 4-year-old child.
Hmm. So with that, is there any specific place they should be looking for an anchoring kit? Are there anything they should look for in the kit to ensure it's a safer one? Is there anything like that?
So if something looks flimsy to you, go ahead and buy one. They're readily available
Hmm.
on a number of websites. So you just want to make sure that you anchor in two places and that you're using something that looks sturdy, looks like it's going to hold up the furniture. And if you weren't sure how to properly anchor furniture, if you have any questions, Consumer Reports has a step-by-step video tutorial available on cr.org.
Hmm. Perfect. And so you just mentioned earlier that bookshelves are also something that could potentially tip over. Are there any household devices or appliances that we don't think of on a daily basis that could tip over? Are there anything that we don't think of that could pose safety risks?
Certainly, TVs often tip over, and those can cause serious injuries as well. Not just the TVs, as I mentioned, the TV stands,
Hmm.
bookshelves, anything that's really freestanding that could pose a tip over risk should be securely anchored.
Hmm. And so, what resources does Consumer Reports provide to help consumers properly anchor their furniture?
We certainly advise consumers to check out our articles
Hmm.
on furniture testing so you can know how dressers fared. We also just published a story on anchoring, which
Hmm.
we evaluate various types of anchors that we tested firsthand. And if you have any questions about how to properly anchor, if you're not sure about the steps, we do have that video tutorial available on cr.org.
Hmm. And recently, since the Sturdy Act has been passed, what has the feedback been like from families? Have you heard of any stories, any recounts? What has that been like?
So families are absolutely encouraged, especially because our test showed that this rule is working.
Hmm.
Furniture that is made after that effective date is holding up to our rigorous tests. Unfortunately, of course, countless dressers that don't meet strong standards remain in homes across the country. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, retailers sometimes do, often do, continue to sell dressers that do not meet these furniture standards.
Hmm.
So, in the interest of child safety, we are calling on them to commit to a public timeline to sell only compliant furniture with the
Hmm.
Sturdy Act.
And for families who may have furniture in their homes that's been before the Sturdy Act date, is there anything in particular that they should watch out for? Maybe feel around. I know you mentioned that there were no necessarily visual elements, but is there anything in particular that they should look out for?
I would just say, if in doubt, anchor your furniture.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so, with that, you also mentioned the story of a 4-year-old who unfortunately passed away. Why necessarily speak about furniture in particular?
Well, furniture is in everyone's homes. It's not a risk you think about. It's kind of a
Hmm.
hidden hazard. We'd like to think that the things we have in our home have been tested for safety, but that's not necessarily the case. And that's not the case with dressers. So that just really underscores the importance of being vigilant, knowing that any dressers built before this effective date do not meet federal safety standards. And so
Hmm.
anything that can pose a tip over risk to a young child, that can trap them underneath, it's of the most vital importance that you anchor it.
Mm-hmm. And for our viewers who may, not necessarily be aware about furniture and its tip over risks, why is it because the furniture is so heavy, because children tend to climb on it, because it's built a certain way that's not always sturdy in the floor? I know I actually have a dresser in my home where it's not, the whole thing isn't like flat on the floor. There's a lift in it. So is it technically a natural disaster kind of issue? What kind of issue is it that poses these risks?
It's going to vary depending on the type of the dresser. There are certain things that manufacturers can do to make their dressers more stable. They can add weight to the back. They can do an interlock system. There's many ways to make furniture more stable. It's really up to the manufacturer how they want to meet these strong standards.
Mm-hmm. And if a parent is a victim to tip over incidents, where should they go to kind of help address this and maybe get some additional help?
The parent advocates that we've worked closely with over the years are part of a nonprofit called Parents Against Tipovers, or
Okay.
PAT. If this is something that you've suffered, we encourage you to reach out to the parents of Parents Against Tipovers, PAT, and also report any incidents of falling furniture, unstable furniture, whether it was a close call or not, to the Consumer Product Safety Commission.
That's actually very interesting. I wouldn't necessarily think that there's an entire group that you could go to for this specific issue, but for people who may not know, where can they go to kind of help get more information and kind of keep that in their back pocket?
So the Consumer Product Safety Commission has a lot of information on anchoring. They also, we want to encourage parents, if you do have an incident, reach out to the Consumer Product Safety Commission to let them know what happened. And as a support, if you just need parents to talk to, please do reach out to the parents at Parents Against Tipovers.
Awesome. Gabe, I want to thank you so much again for joining us today and sharing information with us on this issue.
Thank you so much for having me.
To find out more, visit consumerreports.org. Stay tuned. We have more open for you right after this.